thought a great way to launch the website would be to tie some specialty flies. Now, we've had a huge amount of requests for the Bulldog, the original tie, but I thought what we'd do is tie up actually the flies me and Dale use personally. We call it the Bulldog, but it's got a slight variation. And actually, you people that are accessing the website get the huge advantage of seeing this personal tie of mine, and it's called Don's Personal Bulldog. This is the one that me and Dale actually use on the show. So make sure you have these materials ready before you tie the fly. We'll tie the fly on a size 6 4x long streamer hook. You tie with some 6/0 black thread, some 0.02 to 0.03 lead wire for the weight. For the tail, we'll use some burnt orange Marabou, some heavy copper wire for the ribbing, some medium gold chenille for the body, and for the hackles, a burnt orange and olive Grizzly hackle. Start the fly off, we're going to take our 0.02 lead wire, and I'm just going to wrap up the hook. And I like to double it over. If you're using the heavier wire like the 0.03, I only give it one wrap. But I'm going to go right to about a ½ an inch from the eyelet and then work it over again a second time, kind of double it up, and only go halfway on the hook. So I'll let you see here in a minute. I'll just undo, there we go, finish that. So you can, as you can see, I've only wrapped the front half of the hook. Don't wrap any more than that. You want this fly to undulate, so only half, front half. Now that we have our lead tied in, we're just going to put on our thread, and again, just form a couple of small dams on the front and the back of that lead, just so it doesn't slide on the hook. So I just wrap up a little ball at the back of the weight, the lead wire, wrap it a little bit at the front, and then finish off with the back of my hook. We're going to put on our Marabou tail. Take one of your burnt orange Marabou feathers. Now I like to use all this material from the bottom of the feather, so strip off a bunch at the bottom, and I'll do the same to the other side. I like to use the whole feather. Make sure you've got all the fibers pulled out. Strip that off, kind of match them up for length. They don't have to be exact, just similar in length. You want a little bit of length variation. Take that big clump that you have, make sure it's about the length of the hook. It's alright if it's a little past, but about the length of the hook, and then tie it in for the tail. Now, after I've taken a few wraps on the tail, I like to take my scissors, cut off all this bulk excess that's on top there, wrap this over with the thread, and always remember to go back to the tail and go behind the tail. Pull the thread up, go in front again of your tail, go behind it once more, pull it up nice and tight, and wrap in front of the tail again. That's going to allow that tail to always sit upright. It won't get pulled down over the hook, so make sure you do that. Now take some heavy copper wire, and we'll tie it in at the back of the hook. And this will be used to riv the fly up a little bit later. And make sure you tie it in good at the back there. You can build up a bit of a base layer of thread. One of the most important parts of this fly is selecting the proper hackles. Now, here's the big key. Is the burnt orange Grizzly hackle that I selected. You'll notice the fibers are not as long as the green one. The Grizzly one that's green is going to go in front of this hackle, and it's a lot bigger. It's actually going to overshadow my burnt orange Grizzly, but you'll see the burnt orange through the green. This is very important. So what I'm going to do is put them together and tie them on to the hook and tie them in by the tips. Very important to tie these in by the tips. So tie them in by the tips and just wrap it back, your thread back to the back of the hook, and keep those back for a little later for ribbing, and just cut off your excess. Take some of your olive chenille, tie it in the back of the hook, and now when you wrap this fly forward, the way I personally like it is keeping the back end nice and thin. Only do one wrap on the back end and just keep wrapping it forward. Keep that body thin at the back. And as you get up to the lead, now I'm going to start tightening up. Now I'm going to actually maybe double overlap as I get to the head. So I want a tapered body. I'm actually building the front end up a little more than the back end. And then we'll finish, and leave yourself minimum a ½ inch or quarter inch of room at your eyelet, because we're going to wrap those hackles up there. And cut off your excess. Now what we're going to do is take our two hackles And I always want, I'm going to flare them out a little bit. I always want the green in front of the orange, so I'm going to start wrapping forward. Now making sure that green stays in front of the forward, whatever it takes to keep the green in front. And then as I'm going, I'm pulling them back and I'm wrapping them together. Remember, I'm wrapping these two up together. That green's always going to be a little bit bigger than that orange. Then when I get to the head, I want to take 2 or 3 wraps and really flare that head out. And then wrap it over with my thread. Cut off your excess from your hackles. Now what we're going to do is take all this extra material, it looks like a real mess at the front of the hook, and we're just going to wrap it over with the thread right at the head and pull it over. And that'll actually give you a really nice flared collar. Now to make sure that hackle stays intact, I'm going to go the reverse direction with my copper ribbing and bring it through and just slowly pull it up. And what that's going to do is wrap over your hackles and keep them solid on your hook. So if you happen to blow a hackle out of there, this rib is going to keep it intact. And only go to the collar. So what I'm going to do is go right up to where I formed the collar, bring my thread back, and tie off my copper ribbing behind the flared head. Cut off your excess. Now what you want to do is pull your thread forward again and wrap all that. Form a nice black head on the fly and wrap in all that hackle so you have a real nice flared head on the fly. So to finish the fly off, we're going to take our whip finisher and do a few whip finishes at the head end. I like to do about 3 or 4, and always I like to do it over a couple times just to make sure that knot forms up real good. Cut off our excess, then take a little bit of head cement. And again, personally, I like to head cement my flies. On the show a lot of times I won't head cement because we don't have the time, but on here really give it a good coating. Let that soak into that head. Let all that material or that cement get into the fly. And there it is. Now that is the finished personal Bulldog. That's the one I use on the lakes. That's the fly I use out on the river all the time. In the old Bulldog, all we did is we had a variety of different greens. We would tie it with a light green and a darker green, a grizzly green with, say, a real light green. It was a good combination, but I found putting that burnt orange with the tail, as we do in the original pattern, along with burnt orange in the body, it just sets this fly apart. When we're fishing, anywhere me and Dale go, that's the Bulldog we use. So everybody on the website, you get the advantage of seeing the real Bulldog. Hope you enjoy it. Fish it well, because you know what? It works.